Most people think that glucose numbers or blood sugar only matters if you're a diabetic. But the truth is, blood sugar actually controls so much in our body. It can control our energy, our weight, our hunger, and even really has an effect on our brain. In fact, most people have glucose issues 10 to 15 years before they're ever diagnosed as a diabetic. So today I want to go through the basics. What is glucose? What are the good levels? And how the foods you eat affect it. Blood sugar is simply the amount of glucose that is in our bloodstream. Glucose is one of the main sources for energy for our body. When you eat food, your digestive system breaks it down into different components. One of those is glucose. When glucose enters the bloodstream, our body will produce something called insulin. Insulin's role is to help maintain and manage glucose levels. Insulin is kind of like the key. It opens the door for glucose to enter into the cell. When glucose can enter into the cell, our cells are able to make energy. When this process is broken, glucose continues to climb. For most healthy people, their glucose levels are maintained very tightly. A healthy fasting blood glucose is typically around 75 to 90 milligrams per deciliter. After you eat a meal, glucose naturally rises. But ideally, you want to keep the blood glucose levels below 140. And you want to see those levels return to baseline within 2 hours after eating. If blood sugars regularly climb above that, it's often one of the earliest signs of insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is the driving factor in type 2 diabetes. So all the food we eat can be broken into 3 major macronutrients: carbohydrates, protein, and fat. Carbohydrates have the largest and fastest effect on the blood glucose levels. Carbohydrates are broken down into glucose. Foods like bread, pasta, desserts, sugary drinks all rapidly spike our glucose levels. Protein's a little different. Protein's broken down into amino acids and has not much effect on our glucose levels. Protein, however, can help stabilize our glucose. And fat nearly has 0 effect on our glucose levels. But protein and fat together before carbohydrate is how one could stabilize their glucose levels in each meal. The biggest problem we have today is that most meals are made up of carbohydrates, and we have multiple meals where we're heavy carb, maybe a little bit of protein, and hardly any fat or fiber. Every time we have these big meals that spike glucose levels, that means the demand for insulin becomes greater. Over time, the body becomes resistant to that insulin, and that's when blood sugar problems really begin. This process can take years, though. One of the easiest ways that you can start improving blood glucose levels is prioritize protein. So for breakfast, instead of cereal and toast, we could have eggs and yogurt. Instead of orange juice, we could have water. Foods like eggs, meat, fish, and yogurt are great ways to get protein in without spiking glucose levels. When you prioritize protein and reduce the constant carbohydrates, blood sugar becomes much easier to control. If you found this information helpful, subscribe, because I will be sharing more tips like this in the future.